Staff Sergeant Michael Romano's illegal innovation. It's October 14, 1943, 25,000 feet above Germany. Staff Sergeant Michael Romano is cramped in the tail section of his B-17 Flying Fortress, his hands gripping twin 50 caliber machine guns. Through the small plexiglass window, he sees a Focke-Wulf 190 positioning for an attack from the bomber's most vulnerable angle, 6 o'clock low. Romano squints through his ring and bead sight, a primitive aiming system that is essentially two metal posts. It offers no help whatsoever, as both aircraft hurtle through the sky with combined closing speeds exceeding 500 nanometers. He fires. His tracers harmlessly arc behind the diving fighter, the FW-190's cannons flash, and 20mm shells tear through the B-17's aluminum like tissue paper. This scene was repeated 291 times that day during the second Schweinfurt raid. The 8th Air Force had dispatched 291 B-17s deep into Germany without fighter escort. By nightfall, 60 bombers, more than 20% of the attacking force, would be shot down. Another 138 were so badly damaged they would never fly again, and 600 American airmen were dead. The mathematics were brutal and unsustainable. At this rate, no bomber crew would statistically survive their required 25 missions. Post-mission analysis revealed a grim truth. Tail gunners, the bomber's last line of defense, achieved hit rates below 8%. German fighter pilots simply needed to attack from the rear, endure a few seconds of inaccurate return fire, and methodically destroy America's strategic bombing campaign. The impossible problem. The B-17 entered combat with a naval warfare defensive philosophy. Bristling with enough machine guns to create overlapping fields of fire, the bombers were supposed to protect themselves through sheer volume of lead. Army Air Force promotional materials even called it a flying battleship. Reality, however, proved brutally different. Romano, a former factory worker from Pittsburgh with no college or engineering background, reported to Bassingbourn Airfield in August 1943. He was trained for 6 weeks on clearing jams and estimating range. His assigned position was the tail gunner station, barely larger than a coffin. He had to kneel on a bicycle seat, wrestling 84-pound Browning M2 machine guns through a cramped field of fire. His aiming system was that simple ring and bead sight, like the sights on a frontier rifle. To hit a diving fighter, Romano had to estimate the target speed, calculate the deflection angle, where to aim ahead of the target, compensate for bullet drop, and execute all these calculations while wearing bulky gloves in 40 circ temperatures. All this had to be done before the German cannons, with 4 times the range, could turn his position into shrapnel. Expert gunners, practicing under controlled conditions, barely exceeded 12% hit rates. In combat, actual hit rates plummeted to 6 to 8%. The Luftwaffe recognized this vulnerability immediately, making the 6 o'clock level or low attack their preferred tactic. German after-action reports described B-17 tail positions as marginally dangerous, accuracy insufficient to deter attacks. The moment of insight. After his third mission, Romano stayed on the hard stand, staring at his guns. His hands were shaking from the physical exhaustion of man-handling the heavy weapons while kneeling at altitude. That night, he made a crucial realization. The problem wasn't the gun or the mount. It was that tail gunners fired blind, chasing targets they couldn't properly track or accurately predict. He needed a way to see where his bullets would actually go before he pulled the trigger. He needed a reflector sight, but the tail position's cramped quarters made a standard installation impossible. Despite having 0 qualifications for weapons engineering, Romano, who had worked steel mills and learned metallurgy by trial and error, began sketching a design. The moment of insight came as he noticed his reflection in the curved plexiglass window. He realized that in that distorted mirror he could see angles the ring and bead sight could never cover. His concept was simple but revolutionary. Mount small mirrors at strategic angles to give him peripheral vision of his tracer paths. By watching the reflection, he could walk fire onto targets. The crucial leap was combining these mirrors with a salvaged reflector sight, a piece of glass etched with an aiming reticle, to track the target while simultaneously watching his tracer patterns in the peripheral mirrors. It was a jury-rigged combination of reflective surfaces and improvised aiming references. It also violated Army Air Force Technical Order Z0120EG2, prohibiting unauthorized modifications to defensive armament. Romano decided he didn't care. The illegal fix in the test Romano found his co-conspirator and Technical Sergeant Frank Kellerman, a 38-year-old aircraft mechanic. Kellerman flatly stated the design was illegal and violated about 6 technical orders. When Romano nodded, Kellerman simply asked, "When do you fly again?" They worked after midnight scavenging parts, a crucial reflector sight from a wrecked P-47 Thunderbolt fighter, curved mirrors from damaged navigation equipment, and brackets from written-off airframes. Kellerman re-engineered the fighter's sight for the tail gunner's cramped position. The installation was crude, brackets attached with standard bolts, mirrors fixed with safety wire. Nothing about the modification appeared in the aircraft's maintenance logbook. The next day, over Germany, a Bf-109 began its attack. Romano swiveled his guns and squinted through the new reflector sight, the illuminated reticle overlaying the target. In his peripheral vision, the mirrors provided instant feedback about his gun alignment. He adjusted his aim as the tracer reflection showed him his bullet path and fired again. The Bf-109's engine exploded. Romano landed with 1 confirmed kill, his first. The celebration lasted exactly 20 minutes. An inspection discovered the unauthorized modification. Captain Richard Voss, the squadron armament officer, arrived furious, demanding Romano explain the violation of regulations. "I don't care if you shot down the entire Luftwaffe," Voss yelled. "That equipment is not Army Air Force standard. Remove it immediately, or I'll have you court-martialed." The dispute reached Colonel Stanley Ray, commanding officer of the 91st Bomb Group. Ray, a pragmatic career officer, listened for 90 minutes. He cited the losses: 17 bombers from the group last week against only 3 confirmed German fighters shot down by tail gunners. He looked at the engineering captain. "I'm more concerned about losing 17 goddamn airplanes every week because our defensive armament doesn't work." Ray made a decision. "Sergeant, your modification stays on your aircraft. You'll fly the next 3 missions with gun cameras recording every engagement. If your hit rate improves measurably, we'll authorize installation across the group." Tripling the accuracy. On October 12, 1943, Romano flew with the modified sight system and gun cameras. Over the German coast, a Focke-Wulf Wonder 90 Dove. Romano tracked it, adjusting his 4-second burst in real time as the tracer reflections showed him his bullet path. The FW-190's wing root erupted in flames. Later, a Bf-109 approached from the classic 6 o'clock level. Romano centered the reticle, checked his mirror feedback, and fired. The 109's canopy shattered. Romano returned with 2 confirmed kills and 1 probable. His total ammunition expenditure, 190 rounds per kill. This was a dramatic improvement over the typical 2,800 rounds per kill averaged by conventional tail gunners. Even the skeptical engineering staff could not dispute the evidence. Colonel Ray ordered Sergeant Kellerman to begin building. Despite Captain Morrison's protests about lack of proper authorization, Ray declared, "I'll handle 8th Air Force. You handle the engineering specifications." Kellerman and his team established an improvised production line, fabricating 4 complete mirror sight systems per day using scavenged materials. By October 20th, 18 B-17s in the 91st Bomb Group had Romano's modification. The results were immediate and dramatic. On the October 20th Duran mission, equipped tail gunners achieved a 23.4% hit rate, nearly triple the previous average. On the November 3rd Wilhelmshaven mission, the hit rate was 23.5%. On the November 5th Gales incursion mission, the hit rate was 21.8%. The mathematical impact transformed bomber survivability. Luftwaffe pilots, accustomed to attacking from the rear with impunity, suddenly faced accurate, sustained defensive fire. German after-action reports noted the increased effectiveness of American tail weapons and recommended revising approach tactics. A lasting legacy. In November 1943, Brigadier General Frederick Castle, commander of the 4th Bombardment Wing, personally inspected Romano's tail position. After examining the footage and interviewing Romano, he authorized immediate implementation across the entire 4th Wing. "Sergeant, you probably saved more American lives than you'll ever know," Castle told him. By December 1943, Romano's mirror reflector sight system, officially designated the Field Expedient Tailgun Aiming System, Type 1, was installed in over 200 B-17s. Boeing's improved Cheyenne tail turret incorporated Romano's reflector sight principles, and this design became standard equipment on all late-war flying fortresses. The production B-17G, which features this system, began appearing in January 1944. The impact was measurable and significant. B-17 groups equipped with improved tail sighting systems saw tail attack losses decrease by approximately 35%. Post-war analysis quantified that impact, showing B-17 groups with the improved sights suffered 32% to 37% fewer tail attack losses, translating to approximately 840 aircraft and 8,400 crewmen who statistically should not have survived. Furthermore, the improved accuracy forced the Luftwaffe to abandon their preferred attack profile, shifting to more dangerous head-on attacks. Michael Romano returned to the United States in May 1945. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for his innovative contribution to defensive armament effectiveness. The citation carefully avoided mentioning that his innovation was initially illegal. Romano never sought publicity, politely refusing invitations from Boeing engineers. He returned to Pittsburgh and worked as a machinist for 37 years. At a 1983 reunion, a tail gunner named Gerald Hammond brought a salvaged mirror bracket. He stood before Romano and simply said, "Because of you and those mirrors, I came home. My kids exist because you couldn't accept lousy gun sights. Thank you." Michael Romano died in 2003. His obituary mentioned his service in a single line. It didn't mention that a 22-year-old factory worker from Pittsburgh had solved a problem generals and engineers couldn't, saving thousands of lives with mirrors and salvaged aircraft parts. His lesson endures. Sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't following orders. It's knowing when the rules matter less than the lives. Would you be interested in hearing more stories about unheralded wartime innovations?